I must be in some sort of time displacement or something, because it seems like it's only been a couple of days since that last chapter with Garou versus Darkshine, but now we have a new chapter that just came out like 3 or 4 days ago and I completely missed it. So a big thanks to all of you checking out the video despite its tardiness. But this is another really awesome chapter. Like, I don't know how this manga keeps up with the epicness of all these fights while still keeping the fights fresh and interesting. And I gotta say, this is a very visual chapter with a lot of full pages of just action going on and not a whole lot of dialogue. With Tatsumaki versus Lord Psychos, and who used to be known as Giro, a super ugly ass monster who turns out is a major babe. But if we remember, she was way down in the depths of the ground and Tatsumaki was still pulling her up. And then Lord Psychos took the super sacred water and essentially turned into Super Saiyan Lord Psychos, as we see here. Like, that's a Super Saiyan transformation right there. But she's still getting pulled up. You can tell when somebody is struggling when they have massive forehead veins like she does here. And I like the visual style here. Like, this image here of her getting tied, like kind of bound by this ring thing. Really cool thing. Now this is what I was talking about, this full page art, like very visual. And the next page is Tatsumaki's crazy ass expression. It's like, oh my god. Like, I mean, they kind of made it clear that Tatsumaki was putting in some effort before. Now that we have Super Saiyan Lord Psycho, she's putting in an even greater effort. But geez, the expression on her face, this is like Psycho Tatsumaki. Like, Tatsumaki should call herself Lord Psycho now. Look at those freaking eyes, man. That is crazy. She almost looks like Medusa with her hair there. But anyway, they end up getting pulled like together, like through the ground. Tatsumaki starts going down, Lord Psychos is going up, and they eventually made it in the middle. But we get to a little bit of a break here. Hilarious stuff with freaking Saitama, and he's like, hey monster, why don't you give us a guided bus tour? And the monster actually starts doing it. Oh my god, that was the funniest freaking thing. But they end up almost getting wrecked by Lord Psychos getting pulled up. But this image, another amazing image, Tatsumaki's like, here I am, bitch. I mean, look at that expression. She's like getting off on making this lady her ragdoll, her personal psychic ragdoll, essentially. A powered up Lord Psychos, and she can still basically do nothing to her. Now that they're face to face, Tatsumaki finally asks where the kid is. And of course, should we forget, their main mission is to save this, well, save the other kid, but there of course is this other kid, which who knows if anybody else knows. You know who else does know though, is King. We cut away from their fight again to get with King meeting up with this kid, which I had completely forgotten about this part. So hilariously, King's freaking out because he thinks the kid is like a monster in disguise, and he calls him out on it, and there just happens to be a freaking invisible alien behind him, who, as all monsters do when they confront King, he runs away in fear. So, you know what? I kind of think that King has a superpower, and this is his superpower, is instilling fear in monsters and just like super dumb luck. So that scene was entirely hilarious, and I love the last part of it where there is just King and the kid and there's like no background imagery. So it's like you focus only on them and it really drives the joke home. But of course that is not the last we see of the monster. He is absorbed by Orochi's heart element. This is a huge revelation. Like, probably the biggest story revelation in the chapter is that the chunks and pieces of Orochi are just spread, and they're sentient and they're alive and they're absorbing the other monsters because he needs like living blood and living body to absorb and to kind of piece himself back together. Now this initially actually reminded me of Cell, because Cell can regenerate if he has like his core intact or whatever, and or Majin Buu, who can just basically regenerate from smoke. So this is kind of a shonen trope too, is basically regeneration. So those who might have been disappointed in Orochi's sudden death by Saitama may be relieved and happy about this revelation, and now it opens it up for a whole new, like, is Orochi going to come back more powerful? Because that's kind of the thing with these, like, Garou and Orochi, is that when they essentially die, they kind of metamorphose into like a much stronger being. So that opens up the door for a whole new story elements, a whole plethora of things that you can do with that. So we go back, and basically Lord Psychos is doing freaking eye blasts, amazing freaking eye blasts. This is so freaking cool, man. My eyes are like bulging out of my head. That tends to happen a lot in this manga for me. So they continue their fight. But then we come back to King and the kid. Now, if there's one criticism of this chapter, is that it might jump around a little bit too much. But it didn't really bother me at all, because I found this scene hilarious with King and this kid. I'm loving this dynamic because, of course, King is just the funniest dude. Like, he's so intimidating to everybody, but if you know anything about him, then you know that he's just like a freaking otaku video game nerd, and he is out of shape and sweating, and his heart is beating because he can't get up the stairs without tiring himself out. And this kid thinks that it's the King engine, but it's just his heart racing because he's finding trouble getting up the stairs. So they find an elevator and they go on their way. So then back to Tatsumaki. She defeats Lord Psychos, but eventually is distracted by a My Mask, who's fighting, of course, the super ugly monster. And they have this really funny exchange because, you know, a My Mask is just this really ruthless hero, and of course he just killed the mercenaries that have been taken over without a second thought. He didn't even try to bring them back from the dark side, and Tatsumaki's kind of grilling him on that. And it's really funny exchange, and Lord Psychos actually notes this. She's like, oh, they're arguing? Like, do these heroes not get along? What kind of heroes are they? And I thought that was an interesting comment from her. So she utilizes that opportunity to get a sneak attack on Tatsumaki, and it doesn't quite like get to her. It distracts her just enough for the all of Lord Orochi's parts, I guess, to kind of beam at, to kind of explode her. So that is the cliffhanger. What is gonna happen to, like, can Tatsumaki really take all of that power being blasted at her? And of course, it seems like Lord Orochi is just kind of, his whole guts and everything are just entangling this entire area, and I'm super intrigued as to where this is gonna go. Like, is he gonna become this giant monster, and just, is the buildings gonna become a part of his body or something like that? But anyway, thanks a lot again for watching the chapter. That's all my thoughts on it. So drop your thought waves down in the comments below and take it easy.